Hello students, welcome back to our English class. Today once again we are going back to our supplementary reading, and that is moments. We are going to start chapter 6 from your moments. Weathering the storm in ersama. Now, what is this ersama or ersama? Ersama is the name of the place. So, let's begin. The cyclone that hit Orissa in October 1999 killed thousands of people and devastated hundreds of villages. For 2 dreadful nights, Prashant, a young man, was marooned on the roof of a house. On the 3rd day, he decided to go to his village. Did he find his family? Now, students, it is talking about the cyclone that hit Orissa in 1999. And so that is how thousands of people were killed, many houses were devastated, destroyed, villages were destroyed. And so it was like a dreadful night for the people of Orissa. And Prashant, who is a young man, he was marooned. What is the meaning of maroon, students? Stranded. The meaning of maroon is stranded on the roof of a house. He was stranded on the roof of a house. Whose roof of a house? And how did he reach there? So let's see. On the 3rd day, he decided to go to his village. That means he is not stranded on the roof of his house, but someone else's house. Did he find his family? It shows that clearly Prashant is not with his family, but he is with someone else. So let's see. Let's begin the chapter. Please open your textbook. On 27th October 1999, 7 years after his mother's death, Prashant had gone to the block headquarters of ersama, a small town in coastal Orissa, some 18 kilometers from his village, to spend the day with a friend. So students, as I told you, as I asked you in the introduction, that whether the Prashant is in his house or he is somewhere else. And how do we know that? Because he decides to go to his village. And so where is he, students? When the cyclone took place, that was exactly after the 7 years after his mother's death. So the cyclone took place on 27th October 1999. So 7 years after his mother's death means he has lost his mother in 1992. Okay. Then he had gone to the underland, that block headquarters of ersama, and that was a small town in coastal Orissa, some 18 kilometers from his village. So where is ersama? It's a coastal Orissa, a town in coastal Orissa, which is 18 kilometers away from Prashant's village. And why did he go there? He went there to spend the day with a friend. Prashant had gone to spend his day with his friend. In the evening, a dark and menacing storm quickly gathered. So students, in the evening, what happened? A dark, menacing storm gathered. And so students, what is it? Underline there. Underline the 2 words. Dark and menacing storm quickly gathered. So students, what happens? The dark clouds, the menacing, like as if it is crazy, menacing, which is not so good, storm quickly gathered. Winds beat against the houses with a speed and fury that Prashant had never witnessed before. So what type of wind, student? The wind is so strong, which Prashant had never witnessed before. Fury, what is the meaning of fury? Very angry. It's with a lot of anger, as if the wind was blowing. And what was the state of the wind? How was it, student? Was it peaceful wind? No. What was happening to the wind, student? So the wind was how? With a speed, fury. The wind was that was beating against the houses with a speed and fury, that is with anger, and that type of wind which Prashant had never witnessed. He had never seen before in his life. Heavy and incessant rain fill the darkness. So students, underline heavy and incessant. What is the meaning of incessant? The meaning of incessant is continuous rain. The rain was continuously pouring down. Fill the darkness. Ancient trees were, so look at the crowd, students. You can see the wind blowing, people are falling, things are flying away. They are beating against one another, beating against the houses. See, look at the picture. Ancient trees were, come to the next page, students, uprooted and crashed to the earth. So what happened? The old trees, which were old trees, they were uprooted. What is the meaning of uprooted, students? They were out. They were out. They came out and displaced. They were displaced, uprooted. They came out. They were displaced and crashed to the earth. Screams rent the air as people and houses were swiftly washed away. So students, underline that the meaning of swiftly. Underline the word swiftly, very quickly. What had happened? Students, houses were swiftly washed away. Screams rent. People started shouting. Why, students? Because this type of wind was breaking, was destroying their houses. It was so quick, it was happening that people could do nothing about it. And so the screams, that is the cry, the shouting of the people was raising. It was so much, so loud that and the air in the houses was swiftly washed away. People became houseless. They did not have shelterless. They did not have any place to take shelter. The angry waters swirled into his friend's house, neck deep. So students, what happened to the water? It swirled. Meaning of swirled is churned. C-H-U-R-E-N. So the angry water churned into his friend's house, neck deep. It was so deep, up to the neck. The water, the level of the water was up to the neck. The building was of brick and mortar and was strong enough to survive the devastation of the wind's velocity of 350 km per hour. So students, what happened? The building that was made of brick and mortar and was strong enough, but then also what had happened? It was devastated. It was strong enough to survive the devastation of the wind's velocity. So maybe his friend's house was standing still, but the velocity of wind was 350 km per hour. But the cold terror of the family grew with the crashing of trees that had got uprooted and fallen on their house sometime in the middle of the night, damaging its roof and walls. So students, what happened? They were saved from the velocity of the wind, but the uprooting of the tree. And what was the tree? Which tree it was? It was a coconut tree. And so what had happened? The cold terror of the family grew with the crashing of the trees. Some trees were fallen, and one among them was a coconut tree that had got uprooted and fallen on their house. Whose house, students? It's the house of the Prashant's friend. Okay, sometime in the middle of the night, damaging its roof and walls. So the roof and the walls were damaged. They were also destroyed as the tree fell down. The crazy destruction wrought by the cyclone and the surge of the ocean continued for the next 36 hours, although wind speeds had reduced somewhat by the next morning. So students, what happened? The surge. What is the meaning of the surge over here? The meaning of the surge is the flow. So what happened? The crazy destruction wrought by the cyclone and the surge of the ocean continued. What? The flow of the ocean, the water continued for the next 36 hours. Underline that. Although the speed of the wind had reduced, it had stopped by the next morning. The velocity of the wind was reduced. To escape the waters rising in the house, Prashant and his friends' family had taken refuge on the roof. So what happened, students? Prashant and his friends' family, where did they take the shelter? They took refuge, they took shelter on the roof of the house. Prashant will never forget the shock he experienced at his first glimpse of the devastation wrought by the super cyclone in the grey light of the early morning. So what is that? Prashant will never forget the shock that he felt, he experienced at his first glimpse, in the first look of the devastation wrought by super cyclone. So what happens? Super cyclone. How is the cyclone? It is said super cyclone, and the sight of the glimpse, that the gaze or the sight that he had, he would never forget. Why? Because of the devastation wrought by the super cyclone in the grey light of the early morning. Early in the morning, it had taken place. A raging, deadly brown sheet of water covered everything as far as the eye could see. Only fractured cement houses still stood in a few places. So students, how is the water and the thing described over here? The raging, deadly brown sheet of water covered everything as far as the eye could see. So as far as they could see, as long as they could see, what they could see only a raging, deadly brown sheet of water that had covered everything. Only fractured cement houses, the cement houses which were also cracked here and there, they stood still in few places. Bloated animal carcasses and human corpses floated in every direction. So students, how is the scene now? What is the scene mentioned over here? What is the scene over here, students? Bloated meaning swollen. What is swollen? The bloated animals, that is the swollen animal carcasses, the skin of the animals and all, and human corpses, the human bodies, the dead bodies, floated in every direction. So what was the scene? The dead animals, the carcasses, and the human corpses, the dead bodies of the human, floated in every direction. All around, every huge old trees had fallen. All around, what had happened, students? The huge big old trees also had fallen. 2 coconut trees had fallen on the roof of their houses. Now, whose houses, students? The house of Prashant. And what had happened to the Prashant friend's house? 2 coconut trees had fallen on the roof of their house. This was a blessing in disguise, because the tender coconuts from the trees kept the trapped family from starving in the several days that followed. So students, what happened? This was a blessing in disguise. Blessing in disguise. Why do they say blessing in disguise, students? Because somehow the coconut water could keep them survive from the starving or from hunger. And so they drank that coconut water and somehow kept themselves up, or kept themselves survive. For the next 2 days, Prashant sat huddled with his friend's family in the open on the rooftop. So students, what happened? For the next 2 days, for another 2 days, Prashant remained along with his friend's family were on the rooftop. They froze in the cold and incessant rain. The rainwater washed away Prashant's tears. What happened? How is the condition, students? They froze in the cold. They did not have anything, as they were in the open and they were sitting on the roof. So what happened? Incessant, continuous rain, in that pouring water, in the pouring rain, they were feeling very cold. And so that rain, the rainwater had washed away Prashant's tears. Prashant had now stopped crying, because almost 2 nights, 2 days he had been crying. The only thought that flashed through his mind was whether his family had survived the fury of super cyclone. Was he to be bereaved once again? So what was the thought, students? Will his family be once again safe, bereaved? That is what, students? What is the meaning of bereaved? Whether he will become once again orphan if his family is gone. Will he be once again orphan or what? No. And so, if this fury of the super cyclone had also hit his family members, what will be their condition? These were the thoughts were running across his mind. 2 days later, which seemed to Prashant like 2 years, the rain ceased and the rainwater slowly began to recede. Prashant was determined to seek out his family without further delay. But the situation was still dangerous, and his friend's family pleaded with Prashant to stay back a little while longer. But Prashant knew he had to go. So what happened 2 days later? 2 days for the Prashant, it seemed like almost 2 years. Prashant felt those 2 days away from his family were like 2 years. The rain ceased and the rainwater slowly began to recede. The water slowly started withdrawing, slowly started reducing the level of the water. And so how the Prashant had felt, those 2 days were like as if 2 years. And so as the water had receded, he decides Prashant was determined. What was he determined to do? To seek out his family without further delay. He did not want to be late for searching for his family. But the situation was still dangerous. And so his friend's family pleaded, they requested him to remain with them, to stay back for a little longer. But Prashant knew he had to go. He was not going to stop. He was not going to remain with his friend's family any longer. But he wanted to stay. He wanted to take some decisions. He wanted to go away with his whatever he was determined, wherever he could go in order to search his family. Students, I am going to stop over here. Before that, I just would like to bring it to your notice. I had told you to underline some words like blotted. The meaning of blotted is swollen. Okay. Then devastated or devastation. The meaning of it is the destruction. Incessant meaning continuous. The wrath, that is produce. The anger. Uprooted meaning displace, remove the trees from one place. Receded meaning withdraw or reduced. Bereaved meaning orphan. Marooned meaning stranded. The velocity of wind, the speed of the wind. Fury, anger. Surge, flow. Swirled. Churn. Mortar meaning the plaster. He witnessed, he saw. The meaning of witness is saw. He pleaded, he begged. And the last is glimpse, meaning the sight. Students, the words which I said you just now, I want you to write the meaning of it in the fair book. Have a good day.